Allah Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. With the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. The praise is due to Allah, Rabbil Alamin, the Lord of the worlds, the one who is full of mercy and compassion, who is always of the will to guide us and to help us in every way, to keep us on al-sirat al-mustaqim, on the straight path. That is, if it is our desire to be on the straight path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, highly glorified as Allah above all things, is there to guide us. Alhamdulillah. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. There is no deity, there is no God except Allah alone, who has no partners. We say that Allah has no sons, no daughters, no consort. That Allah is one, unique, and unrivaled in creation, and there's nothing like Allah. Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he is the universal messenger prophet to whom Allah revealed the Quran about 1400 or so years ago. And Allah, he tells us of him that he is, that Muhammad, that is, Allah says that Muhammad is rahmatan lil alameen, that he's a mercy for all the world. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allah, he tells us in the Quran, he asks of us that we give Allah the proper regard, the proper respect, as we say, to give Allah taqwa in truth, for real, be real with it. And Allah asks of us also, he says that we don't die unless we're submitting to Allah's will, or as the Quran says, Muslimun, not die unless we're Muslims. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Just came through the holy month of Ramadan, and we have been told in hadith by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Ramadan is the model month, that it is the month that we are supposed to pattern the other 11 months of the year by. So that has given us a sign or giving us some information that we're supposed to have that spirit all year round. We're not supposed to lose that spirit. When the month of Ramadan goes away, that doesn't mean that the spirit of Ramadan goes away. It simply means that the month is over. And we've also been told and taught that if we fast the month of Ramadan and then fast 6 additional days in the month of Shawwal, that's this month, before the month is concluded, that it will be equivalent to having had fasted the whole year, the entire year, and that our sins will be forgiven. You know, one thing that Muslims, we try to do, that we endeavor to do, and that is be forgiven. Because we're human beings. And we're human beings that make mistakes. And one of the sad realities is that we're in this country called America, where most of us have the inclination to be individuals and be free. We know that the freedom that we really want is the freedom to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the freedom we want. We don't want to be free to just do anything. And Allah doesn't want us to feel or to believe or to think as though we're free to do anything. No, as Muslims, we have parameters. There are parameters that we live within. And we struggle, we strive to stay within those parameters. That's the daily endeavor, is to remain, to keep ourselves within those parameters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set up by way of the Quran and the example of Muhammad, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So, during the month of Ramadan, you know, sometimes, you know, like I said, we have to keep reminding ourselves that it's never over. It's never over. We're never going to be finished or done serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're never going to be done serving Allah the best way that we possibly can. So when we go through this period of fasting and we develop those spiritual muscles, we should have. That is, the caveat I always say is that if we fasted in the spirit that fasting should be fasted, then that is an attitude, that's a disposition, that's a way, that's something that we should maintain indefinitely. And every time it comes around, we should be at another stage, another point in our spiritual, our psychological, as well as our physiological makeup. Everything that we do is designed to enhance us in our humanity, in our human makeup. Alhamdulillah. So we're not supposed to ever get to the point to where we abandon or we move beyond that. We're not thinking about that. We're not. That's something that's supposed to stay on our minds. Is how do we fulfill the obligation, and how do we continue to fulfill the obligation that we have to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Ramadan is the model month, but we stop talking about it. You know, I mentioned many times. You know, after it's over, you know, it's back to business as usual. But we know that in the world that we live in, things cannot go back to the way business as usual. We can see right now that there are problems. You know, when there's still a problem with race in the world, we know it's a problem. When we having some of the issues that we're having and we're facing with in these days and times, especially for us, because these things are impacting us, they're affecting us. And they're not affecting us just in a superficial way. They're affecting us drastically. These things that are going on in the world that we're witnessing in this day and time. We know that in the last sermon of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that there's no superiority. You know, we're talking about family. We're talking about family, community, and race. Now, as Muslims, we're supposed to be our ummah, the Ummatul Islamiyah, the community of Muslims. A community, in the word community in the Arabic language, comes from the same word that mother comes from. So it's giving us an idea that it's also implying a family mindset, a family environment. So we're supposed to think in the context of community. We're supposed to act and behave in the context of community. We're not supposed to act in the context of just simply race. Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there's no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over Arab. He didn't just say one, he said both. So sometimes people say, well, he didn't say a non-Arab over Arab. He just said there wasn't no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab. But he mentioned both of them. Then he said behind that, according to the report, that there's no superiority of a white over a black. Then he said, or a black over a white. In other words, there's no such thing in our way of life as race superiority. We're supposed to have the family, the community mindset. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. So race have now in this today, in this time, this day and time here, is taking precedence over COVID-19. That's the big elephant in the room now. Race again. You know, you would think as much as spiritually developed as we are, it's affecting us too. It's affecting us too. But as spiritually developed as we should be, it should be a foregone conclusion. It shouldn't even be an issue and a problem. It shouldn't be a consideration or concern in the ummah. It shouldn't even be an issue. It shouldn't be something we have to address. It should be what we should be about the business of is demonstrating to others outside of this discipline how it's supposed to be. Now, we historically go back. We can when something goes wrong in a situation or in a setting, and you can't put your finger on it, a lot of times it's an inside job. Yeah. Somebody right there with you, in the house, in the building, in the circumstance, in the situation. When slavery became an issue, they had people that were selling their own people to slavery. Trapping them, capturing them, tricking them. Go over there and get so and so and such. And they go over there, and next thing you know, they're on a boat to the so-called New World, never to be seen again. So there's a situation about what's going on the inside. Now, digressing, Ramadan is supposed to come in and help us correct what's on the inside. Now, how many of us can actually say that during the month of fasting, what's going on inside me, myself that is, has been addressed? How many of us can say that? Because that's what's supposed to happen. You know, when we're fasting, something internal is taking place. It's not external, it's internal. It said in the hadith also that the breath of the faster is like musk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, you know, when you're fasting, you know, you get that there's that situation that goes on the inside that makes at the early stages, makes your breath foul. It's a sign that something internal is taking place, something in the inside is taking place. Because whatever's on the inside is going to manifest itself on the outside. Whatever's going on inside your heart and in your mind, in your brain and in your heart, that is, whatever's going on the inside is going to manifest itself on the outside, eventually. Just why when the folks in the theater, they got a director up there, producers, directors, cut! Once we go off script, you got to get back in sync. Got to follow the script. Because you can only maintain a facade for so long before the real person, the real you, comes out. So we say Ramadan is that occasion that brings us back to the fitra. Every day during Ramadan we had the iftar from the same root. Din al-fitra, iftar, zakat al-fitr, Eid al-fitr. All from the word, it's going back to nature, the natural self. It's going back to that natural self, that natural disposition that we should be in, that we should have stayed in, and we're returning to that state if we lost that state or we moved out of that state. So it's not something that we're supposed to get away from or to go back to how things were is something that we have improved upon to a point, and then we continue to prove on and go forward. Alhamdulillah, Amen. So here we are again. We say race back issue up front. In this day and time, the most sophisticated time that we know of, technology, smartphones, real smartphones, they're smarter than people. Computers, small, they got computers now, tiny computers, do more than a room of computers did, decades ago. All of this technology, all of this advancement, technological advancement in the world of man. But what about it in the mind and in the heart of man? Has that advancement kept up with technology? The advancement that's going on inside of your mind and in your heart should be broader and more profound than any instrument that man can make. There should be no instrument that man can make that can outdistance you as an individual person in relationship to it. Now, yeah, a computer's gonna make calculations, but it's not feeling nothing though. When you're making calculations, you might feel something. You might feel sleepy. But so a computer, we're not talking about how fast it can calculate. We're talking about the fact that it does. And we're just like computers too, in many ways. And the things that we're about are supposed to be things that are genuinely human. And that take of our humanity. And like I said, man hasn't created anything, he hasn't designed anything that should outdistance himself. We say that Allah, when he created Adam to be Khalifa in the earth, and he is the highest form of creation. The human being is the highest form. There's nothing above the human being. That's why when we say La ilaha illallah, that's why you can't worship anything else. Because you're worshiping something that's higher, that's less than you, beneath you. The only thing that's above us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the angels are not above Abdullah, the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can't, when we say La ilaha illallah, we can't worship anything else. We can't bow down to anything other than Allah. Because everything else that Allah created is underneath us. He says he created the human being in the best of molds. That means that everything that he created is beneath us. We're at the top of the food chain, as we said. There's nothing above us. Alhamdulillah. So we should be, as a result of that month of fasting, we should be better than we were when we started. And we don't want to move backwards, we want to move forward. So, I keep going back to this race thing. Now, before I go there, family. Family don't have to deal with race issues, do they? They might. I guess they have intermarriages now. But typically speaking, once a marriage takes place, a lot of those race issues go away. Even if you do have a mixed marriage, you might have a little bit, but it starts to diminish because people have to accept the circumstances as they are. And so then they start building a family, and you got a mixed family. You have to throw the race out the window eventually. So, but here we are again in this day and time dealing with race and race issues. And I mentioned earlier today to some folks, I said life is like running a race, and everybody is in the race to win. And if we want to have some race pride, they call a group of lions a pride. They call I forget what they call a group of hyenas. They don't call them a pride. They call a flight of birds. They call a group of birds a flight of birds. They got a name for a group of things, a herd. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. But if we're going to have race pride, then hopefully it's the human race. And a race that if we win that race, it's a grand achievement. But we can only cross the finish line in the human race together. It can't be crossed individually. The most prideful race should always be the human race. Otherwise, we'll be producing vanity, we'll be producing arrogance, oppression. You know, when man starts to think of himself, when he starts to be vain, you know, vanity means when you're thinking about you. Selfishness, that's vain, you know. You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. But it's not. When we're vain, when we start thinking selfishly, then that opens the door to oppression. And so now we find that all these issues about race are bringing about oppression of other people, of other races. You know, animals, they're not considered race. You don't hear that say they don't have a race. We don't use that language with animals. They're species. And they don't race, they run. And usually when they're running for life. They're running for their life. Animals. They run for their lives because their heaven is here. Their life is here on the earth. We make their heaven or hell. You know, we can make hell for an animal. And when we start treating each other like animals, that's how we make hell for each other. When we consider people like animals, we create hell for them. And just like the animals that's running around there free, they're freer than many of us. But we create a hell for them, especially in the city. You know, you run over a squirrel out there, he done messed his whole life up. But we don't call them a race. How do people get to the point that we call ourselves a race? Outside of the human race. Races within the human race. Man is a creature who can place everything on this earth in jeopardy. That's the kind of creature we are. We can place in jeopardy the animals, the plants, the insects, the water, the earth itself. If we're not careful, we jeopardize everything that Allah created. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. So we have to overcome, you know, internally. We, as a Muslim ummah, we are people who are supposed to be able to easily overcome the issues of race, if there gets to be issues of race. Those are things that we're supposed to be able to easily move on from. But we're having a difficult time moving from those also. Sometimes you have to stop and let folks think about something. We're having a difficult time overcoming these issues, these internal issues. You know, this mathab, this race, this ethnicity of Muslims, etc., etc. You know, all of those different things that happen that create race pride, tribalism, and other prides in us that we shouldn't have, especially when it comes to each other. So the human being, again, we're not animals. We don't treat each other like animals. We don't make them run. We don't make each other run for cover. We don't make each other run like the animals run. Like, see, when animals run, they're running for cover. They're running for their life, usually. Or they're running after to aggress another life. Alhamdulillah, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. So to go on, we mentioned about the Prophet saying, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mentioning that where the superiority in a person is, where it lies basically. It said that the only superiority is taqwa. That if we want to claim some superiority, then it would have to be in the area of taqwa. It can't be anything, it can't be how we look, how much money we have. It can't be for any other reason. What tribe we come from, what school of thought, what country, none of those things take precedence over taqwa. The situation in this country, somebody told me this morning, they said the imams don't talk about current events. I think I talk about current events all the time. So I'm a grassroots type person, boots on the ground. And the events that's taking place in the country, it also did, how many of us know that a masjid in Indianapolis got shot up on the Eid day? How many have heard that in the news? Didn't hear that. One of the masjid in Indianapolis, Indiana, that's the next state over. On the Eid day, somebody fired 2 bullets into the masjid. And prior to that, that's not, of course, that's a race issue, an ethnic issue, a religious discrimination issue. And then we had, of course, the young man who the police put his knee on his neck till he died. Now, all of humanity is supposed to be in an uproar, which they are. I mean, they're rioting in certain places now. There's so much of that going on that some people are just fed up with. Now Allah says in the Quran, fighting is prescribed for you, though you may not like it. Because you love a whole lot of things that ain't no good for you. Right? You know it? While you dislike some things that are good for you, you love some things that aren't good for you. And fighting is one of those things that you might not like, but you might have to do. And not just fighting with words, I'm talking about fighting with your hands. We know that the prophet said that if you see something wrong, you're supposed to change it, right? With your hands, if possible. And if you can't change it with your hands, you're supposed to speak out against it, if possible. And if you can't do that, then you should desire that it gets corrected, and that's the weakest position to take. So we're supposed to be active about when we see wrongdoing in society. And no matter where it is or who it is. I'm too old to be worried about what's going to happen to me. I don't know how many years I got left. I'm in my 60s, and I don't even know. People keep telling me, you don't look it. I feel it sometimes. So I'm too old to concern myself about being politically correct, even though I'll try to say something in the right way. I'm not going to say nothing stupid. I'm going to think very carefully about, my choice of words. So, but I'm not afraid to address those things that need to be addressed. And Muslims should be addressing anything and everything that is counterintuitive and counterproductive to life and society. We're supposed to be against anything that undermines the natural course of life, the development of life in the world. We're against that, no matter what it is and who it is. We're against anything that's unnatural. Now it's even a debate as to what's natural and what's not, right? So we're even having a hard time figuring that out. But once we determine that something is against the will of Allah and is against the natural course of human development, we're against that. And them. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We're supposed to be a people like that. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't use foul words. He said he never used profanity. But he fought a good fight. I said he had a strong right hand, he had a strong left hand, and he had a sharp sword. Yeah. Back in that, they didn't play back in them days, everybody carried a sword with them. Everybody had a sword and a knife with them. And was ready to fight if necessary. They didn't run from trouble unless they were running to take a better position. Right? They're running to take cover. Let's run over here so we can get a better eye on what's going on over here. But so he didn't say a lot of bad things out of his mouth. But when it came to fighting, you know, once Allah gave him the command to fight, he was ready to fight every day. And society is not going to let us alone, Muslims, people of color, etc. We're not going to be left alone until we fight back. Say, Dad, what is it? Man, I'm talking about fighting. Yeah, I'm talking about fighting. The only way we're going to overcome race issues and stuff like that between people who are supremacists, who think that they're better because of whatever it is about them, sometimes you have to take the war to them. You have to take it to them. You know, this country declared war on terrorism, and they took the fight to them. They didn't wait for them to come over here. They went on, we going over there. Not that I ain't saying they're right, but that's what they did. They took the fight to them. So before you get on over here, we're gonna get you. So sometimes that's the position we have to take. So, oh, you can't talk like that. I don't have I'm not a paid employee like many imams are, to where they have to be put a muzzle on, but they can't say what they need to say, or what's necessary to say. When it comes to certain things, we're supposed to struggle against them. And Allah, He says, fight until there's no more fitna. Right? He says, fight until there's no more fitna, and until religion is free for Allah. In another place, he said, until the war lays down its burden. Now, what is the burden of war? Justice. And you can't have justice without goodness. If there's no good, if you can't find justice, that's because you can't find goodness. You can't find righteousness in a place where there's no justice. So now we got people saying justice. They want justice for so-and-so, justice for him, justice for them. Because they're seeing too many injustices. You got, now, digress. They said that over the COVID-19, they said all the billionaires made, I think they said $3 trillion. I almost passed out when I heard that. The billionaires on the planet made $3 trillion in just that short period of time. $1 trillion, not billion. Trillion. You know, you can't even think, you know, that's astronomical. That's what's going, I mean, when you start looking at the Muslim Ummah, the Ummah to Islamiyah, this is a very wealthy community internationally. Now, us at the grassroots level, we ain't wealthy. We ain't got nothing. But overall, the Muslim community is wealthy. We have the means to eradicate slavery, to eradicate hunger. We have to eradicate homelessness. We have the money. We have the resources amongst Muslims internationally, even nationally. We have the resources to eliminate all of those things for people that never even thought about Islam, that will become Muslim because we did that. Many of them will become Muslim. Isn't that what Muhammad did? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? He freed slaves. They educated non-Muslims. They did everything that they did in society. And next thing you know, within a decade, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah changed the whole Arabian Peninsula in a matter of a decade after he fled to Medina. Didn't take long with the guidance of Allah, the Quran with us. And we can't come little petty obstacles that's going on in the community, that's going on in society around us, because we are not organized ourselves, because we got these internal problems. We got these internal issues that we are not addressing effectively. So if we fasted the month of Ramadan, we should be at the pinnacle of our human existence now. We should be at the epitome of what a human being is. Because that's what it's going to take to address those people who can't see things like we're supposed to be able to see them. There's no God except Allah. There's no deity. There's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except Allah alone. And He put the role a Khalifa in our hands. And a Khalifa is one who is they say that word, it means vicegerent. Someone who is working on the behalf of the authority of another. Who's working under the authority of another person, or another being, rather. In this case, it's Allah, it's not a person. And then he says of this quality, he says of him, he presented Adam to the angels, and he says, bow down. And they all bowed down. And he goes in another place, he says, and when I have breathed into him of my spirit, he says, when I have fashioned him in due proportion first, and breathed into him of my spirit, then obey him. This is what Allah says about the Khalifa that he's making. All of us. Each and every Muslim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So we thank Allah forever and for always. Allah has blessed us. As we say, Allah has blessed us beyond measure. And which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? Allah is merciful, compassionate, has given us everything that we need in our Ummatul Islamiyya, in this Muslim community. Everything that we need. All we have to do is bring those resources together. Can't be greedy. But to bring those resources together and allow those things to take the shape and do the work that they're supposed to do. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, again, as we close, race is in the news again. It's taking precedence over COVID-19. Still here though. It ain't going away. People still dying, but people are dying from everything else too. There are so many things that are affecting people, that are snuffing out, eradicating the life of people. We should be on the forefront of eliminating those things, working against those things, addressing those things. That's what we're here for. That's what Allah created us for. Leadership is supposed to lead by example, experience. Yeah, example and experience. And vision. We're supposed to be able to look down the line and then make the necessary course adjustments to achieve those particular vicissitudes. So we thank Allah again. We pray to Allah that Allah guide us, Allah help us in every way to keep us on our Sirat al-Mustaqim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد آمين. How did you have everything put up, no gaps? 8. How did you do that?
Right, repeat the second line. Okay. The second line, go to the third line. You go back to the third line. The second line, go back to the third line. You skip in the line. I'll move over. Slide over to the wall and put a chair here. can't have gas. You can't have gas in the prayer line.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdinas siratal mustaqim Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahilladzi anzala 'ala 'abdihi al-kitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu 'iwaja qayyiman liyunzira ba'san shadidan min ladunhu wa yubashshira المؤمنين الذين يعلمون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما له به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The other masajid in the city are having a meeting tomorrow to open up the other masajid. I don't know if it's open to the public or not, but I do know they did announce today that we're meeting. Well, we're meeting, I guess, with them, but they're supposed to be talking about whatever. Yeah, we're invited. You know, I told them we never closed, so but we'll still participate in the meeting. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what the time frame is for the other masajid to be open, but that's what's going on tomorrow. I think it's at 4 or 5. I'll send you the link. I think it's a Zoom meeting. I think it's at 4 or 5 tomorrow afternoon. It's a video, Zoom conference. You have Zoom on your phone or on your computer. You can download the app and then use that. And there's a code and stuff. Like if anybody's interested, want to listen in on it or whatever, you can let me know and I'll send you the information. I think it's specifically to the imams and to the directors of the different masajid in town. But I do know that's what they want to talk about is opening back up. So when you close down like that, I mean, some people get the impression that you don't, not what you open up. They collect the cat. They open up to raise money. So I guess you can't close that. And we do have a couple now. I'm sorry.
As of tomorrow, the food pantry is open from 11 to 3. If you know anybody that need any food, we're still looking for more donations to add to the count of the Northwestern Food Bank. So if you want to donate to the food pantry, the Sister Khadijah is over there. You can just go to her. She got the point of sales machine or the cash box, however you want to do it, check, whatever. The brother Imam Lukman is still trying to raise money for his online classes. So if you have a donation for that go here. And your regular zakat or for the Masjid goes in the box over there. So we just wanted to let y'all know that. So specifically, if you know anybody that's struggling financially or whatever, that need the food or the free clothing, just direct them to here. So we'll take care of them, inshallah. Oh yeah, because of the classes is starting back up, we need donations of school supplies for the kids and things like that. We have a sister named Nabila that comes here to teach the Arabic classes to the sisters and the kids. And Lukman will be teaching, and I will be teaching classes and things like that too. So we need school supplies like notebooks, pencils, paper, pens, and stuff like that. So, all right, assalamu alaikum.
Is there any musafir join me for Asr?
Is it after time?
No, any musafir. I'm a musafir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any travelers?
Any travel?
I think you're the only traveler, huh?
Alhamdulillah.
Man.
Depends where you come.
How are you today?
Where I'm coming from, right? 5 week pleasure of praying Jumu'ah with you. From France. Me and you have done Jumu'ah together one-on-one, but in the congregation, mashallah, we probably I've been there. Because sometimes in Ramadan, I used to come. MashaAllah. In Ramadan, I used to come and I used to do the sahur here because nobody else would be here.
Oh, yeah, I started something different. I'm talking about something different now.
Oh, yeah?
Write it on the computer?
You look at
She said you were calling they're better than her and do it. Because you want to, you get $600 a week though. You need your money, man. Okay.
why?
How you doing? Yeah, Michelle.
Don't touch me, else I'll rock you upside your head.
got some freeloading man that want to take advantage of what's going on. Because once they're stealing the TV from Target and all this stuff, how does that benefit? And so that's something like, you know, let's be productive with food. Instead of protest, wash your hand, you know what? Forget Target. We got a mom and pop place over here that supports the neighborhood. We want to support them. We're gonna put our money here. Put our money here. Take the money up. Look. Work hard. Community foundation. The money stays
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر